It is 9:02. We may have a few other people joining us, but I will go ahead and get started. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Restaurant Revitalization Fund webinar. My name is Lance Kaufman with Small Business Development Center at Missouri State University and the E-Factory. I appreciate everybody taking the time to join us today and want to thank the U.S. Small Business Administration Springfield Branch Office for helping us put this program together. Just a few quick Zoom meeting tips before we get started. Please be sure to change your Zoom screen name to your first and last name or first initial and last name. This helps us know who attended, and that way we can follow up. We will be taking questions throughout the presentation. You can type these into the chat box and we will get to as many as possible. If you have any technical difficulties, you can also type that into the chat and we will try to assist you as best we can. We are recording this session and it will be available on our webinar library at sbdc.missouri.state.edu in a couple of days. We will also send out a follow-up email with additional information and a survey to everyone who attended. So please be watching for that survey and provide us your feedback as we use this to help develop our future programs. I want to quickly remind everybody that we are here to support you and your business. The Missouri SBDC provides assistance to business owners at every stage, providing confidential one-on-one consulting at no fee to our clients and a variety of training programs on different topics, such as this one. You can visit our website and our team of consultants are taking appointments daily. We are here to assist you. And one of the things that we are here to assist on is helping you navigate and understand the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. To help us learn more about this program, I'd like to welcome Ron Bassnett, Branch Manager with U.S. Small Business Administration's Springfield Branch Office in Kansas City District. Ron, I'm going to go ahead and let you share and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lance, and good morning, everyone. Ram Bassnett here with the Small Business Administration Springfield, Missouri Branch Office. So let me share my screen here real quick. Okay. All right, can you see my screen, Lance?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yes, so the information is accurate as of today. The SBA's website, which I'll discuss later, will have most up-to-date information should things change, and I'll take questions towards the end after I'm done with my presentation. Okay, with that, let's get started here. The agenda for today is we'll talk about what the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program is, what is the eligibility requirements, priority groups, documents needed, and the use of funds. Okay. Now, the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, became public law on March 11, 2021, and established the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, or the RRF. ARPA appropriated $28.6 billion for Restaurant Revitalization Fund, authorizing SBA to award funds. And the appropriations will remain available until expanded. Funds must be used for eligible expenses no later than March 11, 2023. SBA may provide funding of up to $5 million per location, not to exceed $10 million total for yours and any affiliated businesses you might have. And the minimum award is $1,000. So we'll go through the calculation process and things like that. When you do the calculation, and if you arrive at an award amount that is less than $1,000, you are not eligible for the program. You need to have, when you do that calculation, the award has to be at least $1,000. Okay, let's talk about eligibility. So these are the eligible types of organizations: C corporations, S corporations, partnerships, limited liability companies, sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, independent contractors, tribal businesses, LLC taxed as S corporations or sole proprietors. So B corporations are eligible but they will select either C Corp or S Corp on the application, depending on how they are taxed. And for self-employed individuals, please refer to your tax return to see employed versus sole proprietor distinction. Now, if for tribal businesses, if the business has an EIN, you apply using that. If the business does not have an EIN, you'd apply through by using the social security number of the individual that owns the majority of the business. Okay, moving on, eligible entities. As you can see from the name itself, Restaurant Revitalization Fund, restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts, caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, taverns, snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars, that is coffee shop, ice cream, etc. Licensed facilities or premises of a beverage alcohol producer where the public may taste, sample, or purchase products. Other similar places of business in which the public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of being served food or drink. I want to re-emphasize the last bullet here. If there's some overlap between industries and if you're confused, you can come back here and assess your establishments against this statement that says other similar places of business in which the public or patrons assemble, again, for the primary purpose of being served food or drink, okay? The entities below must have on-site sales of food or beverage to the public that comprise of at least 33% of gross receipts. We're looking at 2019 gross receipts. Bakeries, breweries or microbreweries, wineries and distilleries, and inns. Now, I've been getting a few phone calls about some entities like hotels, motels, vending machines, convenience stores, gas stations, golf clubs, private golf clubs, etc. These entities are ineligible for the program. Bowling alleys might be eligible as long as they can substantiate 33% or higher gross receipts of on-site sales of food or beverage to the public. Not eligible entities. So these entities are not eligible. State or local government operated businesses, as of March 13, 2020, owns or operates together with any affiliated business more than 20 locations, regardless of whether those locations do business under the same or different names or are in different industries. One good example here, let's say I own 18 dry cleaner locations and 3 restaurants. I will be ineligible because if I add all those locations, it will come out to be 21. Okay. Even the dry cleaning business is in a different industry, it doesn't matter. Okay. Moving on to non-eligible entities. If you have a pending application for or have received a shuttered venue operators grant, you are ineligible for this program and vice versa. You are not eligible if you are a publicly traded company. You are not eligible if your business is permanently closed. So some people have asked me, what does permanently closed mean? For the purpose of this program, you are considered permanently closed if you do not intend to open your business to serve the public. You are not eligible if you are a nonprofit organization. And then, of course, you are not eligible if the funding amount is less than $1,000 when you do that math. Now, I have had a couple of questions where people said, hey, Ram, what about a for-profit entity that is wholly owned by a non-for-profit organization? For that, if the for-profit entity has its own unique tax identification number, different than the nonprofit, and meets other eligibility requirements like affiliation or disregard entity. If the IRS has not identified let's say the restaurant that is owned by a nonprofit, if the IRS has not identified that restaurant as a disregarded entity, then they may be eligible. And again, the key here is the restaurant has to have its own unique tax identification number and meet other eligible requirements. All right, let's talk about bankruptcy. So if you are operating under an approved plan of reorganization under either a Chapter 11, Chapter 12, or Chapter 13 bankruptcy and meet all program requirements, then you are eligible. If you are temporarily closed your doors due to state or local restrictions or other pandemic causes, but are still in operation or have reopened, you are eligible. Now, not eligible. You are not eligible if you have permanently closed, if you have filed a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy, or if you have filed for either a Chapter 7 or Chapter 11, 12, and 13 bankruptcy, but are not under an approved plan of reorganization. So in a nutshell, if you have filed for bankruptcy but have an approved plan of reorganization, you may be eligible. So who is eligible? Moving on to franchises. So any business that is a franchise and meets all other program requirements is eligible. The franchise must be listed on the SBA franchise directory, so you can look up your company when you are in the portal applying. So SBA does have a database of franchises. These are called SBA approved franchise. The name of the directory is called SBA franchise directory. If your business is on the franchise directory and given you meet other eligibility requirements, you can apply even though if the franchisor is a publicly traded company. Okay, I want to clarify that. If your business, if your franchise is not in SBA's franchise directory, and if you'd like to include it, you can send an email to franchise@sba.gov with your franchise agreement and documents. Again, that email is franchise@sba.gov with your franchise agreements and documents. You'd email to have it added, but SBA team will review it, and if they are qualified, they'll add them to that directory. Okay. Let's talk about cross-program eligibility. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund recipient, right? So if you have applied for PPP, that will affect the funding for your Restaurant Revitalization Fund. We'll go through that calculation. If you have applied for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, you cannot apply for shuttered venue and vice versa. If you have applied for COVID-19 EIDL loans, you can, that does not affect, that does not preclude you from applying for RRF. You cannot apply for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program twice. So in essence, if you have applied for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program or have a pending application, you cannot apply for the restaurant program. If you have received other assistance from SBA throughout the pandemic, they might affect in calculation for the RRF amount, which will go in upcoming slides. One key distinction here, you do not need to be registered in SAM.gov, which is the Systems for Awards Management, and SBA will not require a DUNS or case identifier. This is different from the SWOG program. So, you do not need SAM.gov registration or DUNS or case identifier for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program. Valid unexpired ITINs, individual tax identification numbers, are acceptable. Okay. So what happens if I have a PPP loan or SFOG? So PPP funds will be subtracted from your final funding amount. Again, we'll go through that calculation, regardless of whether you received PPP in 2020 or 2021, first draw, second draw, all PPP will be deducted from your final funding amount. Okay. You'll be verified using the EIN, ITIN, individual tax identification number, or social security number associated with your PPP loan. So I want to clarify here, especially for self-employed individuals, sole proprietors, and independent contractors. So whatever identification you use to apply for PPP, you would use the same identification to apply for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program if you qualify or meet other requirements. The reason being, the platform that you apply for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund will pull your PPP data, and it needs to marry. So for example, if I am a sole proprietor, I applied for PPP using my social, but then I also have an EIN, given I meet all other program requirements for Restaurant Revitalization Fund, I would apply using the social, because that's what I use to apply for a PPP. Okay. If you received a PPP loan, again, I think it's a reiteration of what I just said, but I'm going to read it out anyways. So if you received a PPP loan, you must use the same EIN number for your RRF application that you used for your PPP application. If you applied for PPP loans using different EINs, you must provide all EINs that you utilized. When you apply for a Restaurant Revitalization Fund, you must withdraw any outstanding PPP application. So a little more here on this. So if you have a PPP loan that is currently with a lender, which is approved, but you are just waiting for funds disbursement, you do not have to withdraw that. But if you have a PPP loan that is not approved, you would have to withdraw that. You would know you can reach out to your lender and see if it is actually approved by SBA and if you're just waiting on funding or not. Okay. Okay, so for SFOG, and again, if you have a pending application or if you have received SFOG, you cannot apply for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program. The program are designed for different situations as well, if you think about it. It's for venue operators as opposed to this for restaurants. Priority groups. Okay, the program, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program, SBA started taking applications on May 3rd, and there is a priority period of 21 days. Only applications from businesses owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged applicants will be funded during this period. So all eligible entities can apply. The application portal is currently open. However, in this first 21 days, only applications from these priority groups will be processed. On day 22, all eligible applications will be processed and funded until program funds are exhausted. Let's talk a little more about priority group definitions. A business concern that is at least 51% owned and the management and daily business operations of the applicant are controlled by one or more individuals who are women, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged. Applicants must self-certify on the application that they meet eligibility requirements. So I've received a couple of phone calls here. So if a husband owns 50% and a wife owns 50%, that they will not be eligible for the priority group because of that 51% requirement. Now, if the wife owns 100%, but then she does not control the daily operation of the business is in wife's name, the husband runs everything, then that also does not meet the controlled requirement piece here for the priority group. They might be eligible for the program, but not for the priority group. Now, the third piece here, it's socially and economically disadvantaged. You have to meet both of those requirements. Now, let's say a scenario where 50% owned by husband, 50% owned by wife, but husband is also a veteran, then they would meet the requirement for the priority group because that adds up, right? 50% from wife's side and 50% from the husband, who is a veteran, so it adds up. Okay. Applicants must self-certify. So you have to self-certify and just be cognizant for the fact that the Restaurant Revitalization Fund applicants, once they receive funds down the road, that information will become some of the information will become public because of certain laws and requirements and such. Now, let's say a hypothetical scenario where I certify myself as one of the priority groups, let's say socially and economically disadvantaged, for example. But then it turns out I am a millionaire in my neighborhood, for example. I wish, but So when that happens, then you might have exposed yourself to a situation that you don't want to be in. So just be careful. when you self-certify these things. Okay. Let's talk a little more about socially disadvantaged individuals. So socially disadvantaged individuals are those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. Economically disadvantaged individuals are those socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to compete in free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital and credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. Now, towards the end of this presentation, I'll walk you through the landing page. The landing page has a knowledge base where they have answered many questions, over 100 questions, frequently asked questions. And there is a detailed explanation of what socially and economically disadvantaged is. And they also reference to specific statutory definitions of these, if you want to learn more about this. Okay? You will be disqualified if you reorganize your business for purpose of qualification for the priority period. So if you if you reorganize your business just to meet the priority periods, you will be disqualified. Let's talk about a few scenarios. This is the first scenario. How much do I apply for? And again, there are specific cutoff dates and things like that. And again, it's built into the platform when you apply for the program. So if you are in operation prior to or on January 1, 2019, you'd use the formula below. And again, if you are in operation prior to or on January 1, 2019, you'd use this formula. So you would take 2019 gross receipts. And again, gross receipts is all forms of payments that you received, revenues. There are certain things that are excluded from gross receipts, which we'll go over in the next slides. 2019 gross receipts minus 2020 gross receipts minus all PPP loan amounts, you arrive at your total amount for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program. It's fairly straightforward. If you open on or before January 1, 2019, you take your 2019 gross receipts, subtract 2020 gross receipts, subtract all PPP loan amounts, and then you'll arrive at that amount. Now, let's say if you began, this is scenario 2, if you began operations partially through 2019. So basically, you are not open for full 2019, and you began operations partially through 2019. Okay. You would use this formula. So you would take the average 2019 monthly gross receipts. You multiply that by 12. Again, we're trying to arrive at what your gross receipts would look like for the whole year. You subtract 2020 gross receipts. You subtract any PPP loan amounts, and then you arrive at your total amount for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program. Now, if you began operation partially in 2019, you may choose to use calculation 2 or calculation 3. We're going to talk about calculation 3 in the next slide. However, calculation 3 could require longer processing time. Okay. So basically, people who began operations partially in 2019, they have option 2 or 3 to do the calculation. However, option 3 might take a longer processing time. Okay. Let's talk about what the scenario 3 is. And again, here are key dates. If you began operation on or between January 1, 2020 and March 10, 2021, and have not yet opened but have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11, 2021, use the calculation below. Okay. Again, if you begin operations on or between January 1, 2020 and March 10, 2021, and have not yet opened but have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11, 2021. So basically, if you're in the process of opening an eligible business, then you might, and given you meet all other program requirements, you can use this calculation. Now, let's see here. And again, you might be wondering what eligible expenses are. We have a slide designated for that. Okay. Add eligible expenses from February 15, 2020 until March 11, 2021. And again, this is the key distinction here. Eligible expenses from February 15, 2020 until March 11, 2021. And you subtract 2020 gross receipts if you have any. You subtract 2021 gross receipts through March 11, 2021. And then you subtract if you have any PPP loan amounts, and you arrive at your Restaurant Revitalization Fund program funds. Consider it a direct payment from the SBA. Okay, now let's talk about scenario 4. This might apply to very few folks. If you operate multiple locations using different calculations, this is for you. You may calculate funding amounts for different locations using separate calculation methods and then aggregate the amounts together. The aggregated funding amount is limited to 5 million per location and 10 million for the applicant and its affiliates. Okay. So what can I exclude from 2020 gross receipts? And again, what can I exclude from 2020 gross receipts? So you'd subtract first draw PPP loan or second draw PPP loan received in 2020 and or 2021. So all PPP loans you'd exclude from your 2020 gross receipts. SBA Section 1112 payments. So if you have if you had SBA 7A 504 or a micro loan, you know what this is. The government was making payments on behalf of you. That's the Section 1112 payments. You exclude that from 2020 gross receipts. You also exclude SBA's economic injury disaster loan, EIDL advance, targeted EIDL advance, or any other grant funds received via CARES Act. You also exclude any state and local business grants from your 2020 gross receipts. You also exclude Randolph-Shepard Act financial relief and restoration payments appropriation from your 2020 gross receipts. I do not know much about this program, but if you received one, you would know. And one thing that I want to add here is you can also exclude employee retention credits from the 2020 gross receipts. Okay. Applying and documents needed. So how do I apply? You apply yourself online through SBA's website. The platform is called restaurants.sba.gov. I'll walk you through that. You can also apply through point of sale vendors. So point of sale vendors are these organizations where you use their platform to for the point of sale. So right now, Square and Toast are accepting applications. If you use them, you can use their platform to apply for the program. And SBA is actively looking for other partners. Now, other POS providers, if they are not accepting applications, they can always provide you the documentation that is needed for the program, like your gross receipts and things like that. That can be helpful as well. You can also apply by via phone. That phone number is 1-844-279-8898. Again, 1-844-279-8898. You can apply via phone. However, telephonic applications will take longer for processing. Now, this is also the customer service hotline for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program. So if you have any questions, you'd call this hotline. I encourage you to visit the webpage that I'll be walking you through later on, where they have a knowledge base. Many of your questions are already answered there. You can find an answer to your questions there. You can call the hotline. And if you still have specific questions specific to your scenarios, you can always reach out to us at the SBA or the SBDC, and I'll work through SBA's leadership to have these questions answered. Okay. So what documents do I need in order to apply? Application SBA Form 3172, completed, initialed, and signed. And again, this is built into the platform. When you apply, it's an online interactive form, and you would sign online when you apply. You would verify verification of tax information, IRS Form 4506T, completed and signed by applicant. Again, this is also built into the system when you apply for the program. Now, I received a phone call a couple of days ago. In this scenario, husband and wife, they filed joint returns. However, the business is completely owned by the husband. If that's the case, then the wife does not have to sign the 45060. Only the husband signs it, if that applies to you. Okay. Gross receipts documentation. And again, any of the following documents demonstrating gross receipts and, if applicable, eligible expenses. Business tax returns, IRS Form 1120 or IRS Form 1120S, IRS Form 1040 Schedule C, 1040 Schedule F. For a partnerships IRS Form 1065, including K1s, bank statements, externally or internally prepared financial statements such as income statements or profit and loss statements, point of sale reports, including IRS Form 1099K. So you have to provide documentation for gross receipts, and if you have tax returns to validate that, and other sources of that documentation, then you would use those. Okay. So how do I get help applying? And again, call center hotline. It's open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time. Help is available in 10 different languages. Okay. Your attestation certification. Again, I talked about this a little earlier. You must certify that current economic uncertainty makes the funding request necessary to support ongoing or anticipated operations. Yeah, just be cognizant of what you're certifying. Best practices. Please provide complete documentation. Leverage your resources. We have excellent resource partner network through the SBA. We have the Small Business Development Center, of which Lance is a part of. We have Women's Business Center, Veterans Business Outreach Center, SCORE mentors. Please leverage these resource partners. They can provide assistance at no cost to you. Make sure the information is correct. If, let's say, if you apply online and you realize that you made a mistake, you would have to call the call center to make corrections. The local SBA employees or resource partners or SBA in general cannot make those corrections for you. You would have to call that hotline. Once you call the hotline, they'll most likely send the application back to you to make those corrections. Once you make corrections and submit it, your queue restarts. So be very cognizant when you apply for this program. Make sure, try your best to get all the information correct the first time. Now, and again, there is already a sample application that you can download, and my recommendation is download the sample application, fill out all the relevant information. If you don't have something or need clarification, reach out to us, reach out to the hotline, reach out to the resource partners. And then once you have everything that you need, you apply. That way, everything that you need is there when you apply. Okay. If you intend to apply for PPP, complete that application before your application for RRF. And again, here you'd have to apply for PPP, have that loan approved before you apply for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Okay. And again, this is for if you intend to apply for PPP. Use the funds. So how can I use the funds? You can use the funds from this program for eligible business expenses. That includes payroll cost, including sick leave, utility payments, maintenance expenses, supplies and supplier cost if you run a restaurant, or food and beverage, you know what this is. Food and beverage expenses, construction of outdoor seating, payments on any business mortgage obligation and or debt, business operating expenses, insurance, marketing fees, licenses, legal, point of sale equipment, etc. Okay. Now, by when do I have to use the funds? So the funds must be spent on expenses that were or are incurred between February 15, 2020 and March 11, 2023. If the business permanently closes After receiving funds, the covered period will end when the business permanently closes or on March 11, 2023, whichever occurs sooner. Any funds not spent on eligible expenses by the time the cover period ends must be returned to the government. So basically, I have had a few small business owners call us here and say, hey, Ram, I still have funding left from PPP. I'm eligible for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund program, but I'm a little concerned I may or may not be able to use all those funds. What you need to realize is spending all the money from PPP is not a requirement for this program. And you have until March 11, 2023 to spend the money for eligible expenses. We're looking at almost 2 years. So, and you have the ability to return the funds to the government if you don't use it for eligible expenses by the end of the covered period, or if you shut down, whichever happens earlier. So, so it seems like you have reasonable time to spend that money if you're eligible for the program. Okay, use of funds assessment. So after the total awarded funds have been exhausted, you must provide a detailed expenditure report and certification for the required period. Now, and again, once you use the fund, you provide a detailed report and certification that you use the funds for eligible expenses. Until you complete the use of funds assessment, beginning December 2021, you're required to provide self-reported, unaudited data detailing use of distributed funds each year through 2023. So basically, at the end of this year, if you have not used all the funds, you would have to provide some form of unaudited data detailing how much of the fund you have used, how much is left, what kind of eligible expenses you use the funds for, and things like that. And you'll continue to do that until all funds are used until the end of the covered period. Okay. And SP will provide additional guidance that outlines the detailed reporting requirements and procedures in coming weeks. So more information coming on reporting requirements. Important contact information, again, call center hotline at 844-279-8898. You can also reach out to SBA offices and resource partners. Stay connected with the SBA. SBA does have a Facebook, facebook.com/SBAGov. SBA has a Twitter at SBAGov. Then you can also join our newsletters. If you go to sba.gov/updates, you can sign up using your email, and whenever program guidance or any new information comes out through the SBA, you'll receive an email. Now, with that, before I open for any questions, I'm going to walk you all through the SBA's website. Let's see here, where to apply for this program. Okay, let's see. All right, Lance, can you see my screen here? Does it say sba.gov?
Yes. Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So can you see this COVID-19 relief options? Okay. So you'd go to sba.gov, and then you click on this red button that says Learn More. From here, you can navigate to all programs that are currently open. We would click on the Restaurant Revitalization Fund here. And this is a landing page that has all the information about the program. Now, I'm not going to go through all of them. You just click on this Apply Now to apply. And then let's see. Here we go. So there is a Restaurant Revitalization Fund sample application. So you would download that and fill out all the information before you actually go and apply. There is also a program guide. And if you scroll down, there is application portal screenshots, RRF, Restaurant Revitalization Fund knowledge-based support documentation. This is what I was talking about. If you click here, there are more than 106 questions that are already answered, frequently asked questions. You just click on this and do a keyword search or something like that. There are more than 53 questions that are answered already regarding technical help and things like that. So, make use of this knowledge-based portal. With that, I'm going to open up for any questions you all might have.
So if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you could unmute yourself and ask. While we are waiting to see if there are any questions, Ram, thank you for going over this information. It's an excellent program, and I think this is going to help quite a few restaurants that have been struggling over the last year. So we appreciate you taking your time to go over and walk us through the program, how to apply. We know your time is valuable, and we do very much appreciate your support to all of our local businesses.
You're welcome, Lance. And again, we are in this together, and there are new programs coming out. It seems like so often, and I know that it's difficult to kind of navigate through, but we are here to help. We can help you through that process.
So I am not seeing any questions yet. I'll give you a couple more minutes to do so. But I will just remind everybody that we will have a recording of this presentation up here in a couple days on our website, sbdc.missouristate.edu. And we will also be sending out a follow-up. So please take the time to fill out that survey as it comes through. We do appreciate your feedback, and we take it seriously and want to use it to help improve our programs. So Ram, we did just have a question come through. My wife has been trying to get her food truck started since January 2nd, 2021. In which we have sunk a considerable amount of money, but we haven't gotten our business license yet. Will this still qualify?
My wife has been trying to get her food truck started since January 2nd, 2021. We have sunk a considerable amount of money. We haven't gotten our business license yet. Does this still qualify? I see. I'm going to have to look into this. I think based on that slide, which talks about eligible expenses, even if you are not open yet, if some of those expenses happened during that time frame, it appears that you might qualify. But again, I do not know the totality of circumstances, but based on that slide and that time frame, for folks that have incurred eligible expenses during that time frame, and the restaurant or the entity is not open yet, they can apply. And at any rate, I mean, if you are in a situation where you're not 100% sure, you can you can call the hotline also, or if you're in doubt, you can apply.
Thank you. It looks like we have a question from Pam.
Okay.
All right, and on that last question, followed up, vehicle maintenance, menu design, recipe creation, equipment are the expenses. So it sounds like most of those would fall under that eligible expenses category.
Correct.
Okay, and so what is the website that I use to get the COVID-19 relief option?
SBA.gov. I'm going to post it on our chat here.
So, and if anybody has specific questions on eligibility and on your individual circumstances, feel free to reach out to us. You can schedule an appointment on our website. Feel free to schedule or call Ram and schedule time with him, or call that customer support line. And we are all here to help you try to figure out your individual circumstances and get you the funds that you need to survive if possible.
True. And again, I mean, especially for eligible expenses, make sure you have all the receipts. If you have contract documentation and things like that, make sure that documentation is safe and readily available, because you'll need that.
All right. I'm seeing a couple thank yous in the chat, and I will echo that. Ram, thank you very much. If you do have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, or you can reply to the email that we'll be sending out with that survey. Please do take the time to fill out that survey. But we appreciate your attendance today. Ram, we appreciate your time. And with that, I will wrap it up unless somebody has the last minute question.
All right. Well, thanks everyone, and thanks Lance and your team for putting this together as well. And I appreciate the support that you provide to our small business communities here in Southwest Missouri and also the SBA. And if we have any program updates regarding this program or any other SBA related programs, we'll be doing webinars in the future as well. So stay tuned. All right. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.